had
trying to figure out how that worked.
Yeah, I didn't pay attention.
Yeah.
But just the fact that you can buy a toilet paper gun. And then they did. Carter, and I don't, normally, they're not supposed to shoot each other, so I've got to redo this game. But yeah, they have this, he walks in, he's like, look, Mom, it's sticking to my head. Yeah.
Awesome.
Toilet paper gun.
We're getting the back of your head, Denise.
Do you want me to move? Turn?
Well, can we slide a little bit over this way? Sorry.
Yeah.
That's good. Thank you. I know.
I had to bring that.
Yeah, really. Okay, perfect. We need one for everybody.
What do you mean? The toilet paper gun. You can buy guns that you put a little toilet paper on and it has water and it shoots little spit wads. Toilet paper.
That's just what I don't need.
I know.
That's what her boys
That's
have.
what my boys have.
Gosh, I can only imagine cleaning that up.
I didn't realize they approved it.
Well, we're gonna go till 3,
Okay.
so a little over an hour. And
So Stephanie, I thought it was interesting that you have a similar week that I had last week about the overwhelmingness of the deaths.
Yes.
So it's interesting that at least several of us have kind of hit that maybe a plateau or a bottom, and hopefully we'll come up. But I just wanted to make that observation, that I thought it was interesting.
I find it interesting that we're all kind of joking around, but you and I are really the jokesters of the group. We should not sit. By the way, Linda, I'll come back to this. But Linda, you're our token. Jake and I sit where we sit so we can see you. Because we don't know what to stand or sit or what to do.
during worship.
During worship time.
Well, I don't even either. Half the time you guys out, everybody out there standing. Everybody's standing up with me. I'm like, oh.
Yeah. So just FYI. So, and I say that because you and I have made jokes. So we're the token. I don't know what we'll call ourselves, but just, yeah.
Husband jokes.
Well, I found worship, there's little triggers in there that just make me laugh sometimes. It's not, I don't even know. Jake looked at me one day and I was being all serious and I wasn't going to break. And then you just started laughing. Yeah. So, but yes, I've thought about that too. That this week was really tough. This last week was super tough. And I thought about you and what you've had to do. And my shift was it only looked like 5 calls once I clocked out, but I was literally suicide person. This person codes, oh, she's back and the people don't want you there. And then back to the suicide, trying to complete suicide guy. And then this lady codes again and the family that didn't want me there, they wanted me there, or, they said they wanted me there, but then I got there and they kind of really didn't want me there. And it was very uncomfortable. It was really awful. I felt that was the worst I've ever felt. I felt totally useless as a chaplain. Yeah.
Did they tell you to leave?
Well, the doctor actually, when I first got there, I got paged, and then I ended up calling the lady at the desk next to me. When I was in the suicide call, that was an all-day thing because they kept telling me that the family was probably coming. They really didn't want me to leave until the family got there. But he flew in, and it was an hour and a half away. Well, it was 3 hours before they got there. Wow. But they kept saying, if you need to go do anything, which I really didn't.
Yeah.
And they wanted me to be there because of how awful the call was. They didn't want that to be the first thing. And so then when I finally, a couple hours in, and I probably would do that differently now, I finally said hey, just page me when they get here. And if you don't want them to see him yet, I'll come right away. Well, then 20 minutes later, I get the page. And so I'm in that room and, first I was downstairs, then I was upstairs with an ICU 1. Then 11 the lady in 11 codes. So I meet the doctor coming out of there, one of the doctors, and they said they got her back, but it's not good. And the family's out and the thing, but she's like, just be aware, they just don't seem like they get it. Like two of the doctors were talking to each other like, they just don't get it. And so we go out there and I introduce myself. I'm like, no, we don't want anyone. She's not spiritual. We're not spiritual. We're good. And then we came back and then the two doctors were talking again because they were trying to decide. They've brought her back a lot like you're talking about. Like you hit me when you said this week, I think it was this week, when you said, where's that line of living and dying? And
Are we just
are we
extending death or life?
Yeah, are we extending death for people or life for people, or is it death? And we're just not going there yet. And so the doctors were talking, they're like, yeah, because they're like, okay, yeah, we're good. We're all, like, they seemed happy and they were like playing music and the doctor said to the other doctor, I don't think they get it. And then they were like, well, I think they do get it. That's how they're departmentalizing it. And so I just said, okay, if you need anything, I'm around. Well, then things went bad again and they went and did a DNR. They asked about a DNR.
Wow.
They agreed to a DNR. And then when she coded, they told me they wanted me back. But then I got there and it was so different. Like, no one was really in. It kind of reminded me of my first call with Marilyn. Were you with me? You were with me but that whole so they were outside the room or barely in the room. They weren't anywhere near her. It was almost like they were afraid to even get close to her. And then the daughter, there was only one, and she was turned around backwards the whole time. And then they took everything out. And the daughter went and sat outside the door with her, like in the corner. And she's like, we're fine. I'm fine. Don't leave and go over there to my aunt, but I'm fine. And it was just a really weird. And then I heard her say, why is she here? Why is she here? It was just a weird. It was just, I took from it, I mean, she didn't know what to do. It was grief and it was just an odd thing.
So the staff wanted you there.
Yeah, the staff wanted me there.
So that their anxiety about the
Yes.
family dynamic.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes. And so at some point I did remove myself because I said, I stayed because then the daughter said, go over and help my aunt. And then the aunt was like, I'm doing good. And then I was talking to some guy, which turned out to be the father-in-law to the daughter. And so there was a weird dynamic. And then they were mad because he was calling people to come up to the hospital. And she's like, I want to get out of here. Like, I don't want to stand next to a dead body. And it was just a weird, yeah. So it was very uncomfortable.
So I'm wondering what feelings you were trying to identify with Stephanie and naming what you.
For me, it was overwhelming.
That's
It's like a mirage.
Isn't that's under scared?
Yeah. Look at me. I used a more sophisticated word, emotional word.
Euphemistic one,
You didn't look at that yet, did you?
Yeah, I did.
I don't want to look at those.
It's just,
Yeah. I want to be
Yeah,
real.
it felt overwhelming.
Mhm.
Like in previous experiences, there's been space between having to deal. And I probably haven't dealt with them well in the past. And then when you put a lot of them together, some of which are pretty heart-wrenching, just the way that the people are dealing with them. Like it was very healthy and I was welcomed into that and appreciated but just, watching a guy struggle for breath for 10 minutes, even though they'd given him, morphine to keep him from fighting so much, but still, and then just kept piling on. It was just overwhelmed. Like, I don't know. but I didn't know it till later. Like that's the thing.
Yeah.
I just didn't really know it till later. I'm in the moment and
Mhm.
I'm just kind of going through and then it just kind of struck me. It's like, wow, this is really affecting me more than I thought it was.
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt too. Like, the night was so crazy that it was just a continuous keep going. And then the man that tried to complete suicide paged me at 6:15. Well, literally, like I'm trying to read it and it doesn't, it just says Mystic Room 1, patient request to see you. So yeah, it was that whole just, it was odd.
Is it a helpless feeling? I'm just looking at scared.
Mm-hmm.
And when you were talking about being overwhelmed, I thought, what's overwhelming you?
I think the overwhelming me part is I think I know what I'm supposed to believe about life after death, but I don't know if I really believe that. Does that make sense?
Say more.
Well, I've always, I believe in an intermediate state, but I've never found the idea comforting that, this person is in heaven. And I may be philosophizing and theologizing about it because I feel so much what happens in the way that people deal with death is I'll just throw it out there, is a kind of Neoplatonic way of viewing the body and the soul as if, the soul departs and they live forever playing a harp in heaven and they're watching over us and those kinds of things. And for me, it's life after death. I use the phrase of N.T. Wright, where I don't know where this person is, honestly, but I do have confidence from my tradition of who they're with, potentially, but I know nothing. So I feel like since I know nothing of this mysterious thing, what kind of comfort can I give these people? And I can't honestly, in integrity, I can't say things that I don't believe. Like your loved one is in this place, and I have no idea. So it's making me confront, I guess, my convictions about these things. And so I do feel helpless on what to say. And then helpless of some people want a chaplain presence even if they're not religious because they become religious. And then what do you do then? I don't want to give. Yeah, I just don't know. So it's helpless. It's overwhelmingly.
And scary.
It's scary. It is scary. That was the one I think that finally got me was ICU. They had asked for a priest because they were going to take the patient off of the BiPAP, which I learned is, helping them breathe both ways. And we walk into that room and the family's there, but there was, the patient was more alert than I thought.
Mm.
And it just was like this fear in her eyes.
Oof.
We were there, Carmine and they were there for just a few seconds just to let them know that a priest had been contacted. But in those few moments, just the fear of this person who was way more alert than I anticipated, and who cognitively knew what was going to be happening, was I think that was the point when I realized this is affecting me more than I realized, because most of the people have been, they're out of it. They're not really.
Not aware.
Yeah, they're not, as aware as much. This person, they just seemed like they knew this thing was going to be taken off and then that was going to be it. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm thankful I'm not gonna be in this room, honestly. Cause I can't imagine what it would be like for somebody so aware.
To know they were going to die.
Yeah. So I think that was the moment where it was like, yeah, okay. Can this stop now? No más, no más.
That's really deep.
Yeah.
How are you connecting with Jake?
I can't even imagine. I mean, yeah, I didn't know that you were going through that. And I was like listening to what you said about, we assume that when somebody's being taken off, that they're unconscious or that they're unaware of what's happening. But it's almost like I'm sitting here thinking about the death penalty.
Right. Yeah. Interesting.
And yeah, that, I mean, I guess I'm feeling so bad for you that you were standing in there having, you know, I wouldn't know what to do.
Right.
You know. So. Ugh.
So you talking about those feelings of like confronting your theology and
Mm-hmm.
like I can identify with that a little when I think about when my grandma died, because I think I told you all like she did not want to die. Like she was very clear. Like she did not. In fact, when she found out that she was terminal, she was there by herself. So the doctor, it wasn't a smart thing, but so but she was very clear, like, I'm gonna fight this, and don't you all give up on me. Like, do not give up on me. And then, so I was with her that last week. And of course, you know, I told you all that the lines got blurred between Stephanie wants to be a chaplain and Stephanie's a granddaughter, and me putting my foot down and being like, I'm a granddaughter first. But I was kind of confronted with that too myself when I felt like my grandma, when she was still conscious, looked to me for that. And that whole thing of like, what if I'm wrong? You know, like we're trying to comfort her, like in her final hours, especially, we're trying to comfort her and letting her know it's going to be okay. And, you know, no more pain, whatever. And at one point, my uncle even wanted us to say like, goodbye, like you have to go kind of, and I never did it. Like they did it or like he did it. But I struggled with that. Like it felt like a lot on your shoulders of, if she like, you know, you believe these things all your life and you're taught to, but what if we're wrong? And what if it's not that? And she's scared and yeah. So it's not the exact same thing, but I can identify with that.
Yeah.
Like we take for granted those theologies, you know, we take for granted the way we worship and how we're in community together and how that's the same, but how it's different. But yeah, and that's what I had felt this week too, that it's all just kind of, like you said, it would be one thing if it was split up a little bit more, but to have a dynamic of it all around, plus deal with it personally, the people you love. And plus my grandma, it's only been since like the end of March for people, you know? So just one thing into the other, but yeah.
I loved what you said about, I don't know where they are, but I know who they're with. That, I don't know. Of course, I don't know how much of comfort that is to somebody that doesn't really believe in God.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I think in the wake of, you know, them dying or near death, you know, most people don't want to hear that. But, you know, we have to put aside what we believe, I think,
Right.
to help bring comfort. And a lot of times there's nothing that can be said, you just have to be there.
Embracing the silence is what I'm calling it, which is,
It's hard.
it is hard. It's getting easier, but it's not in my DNA.
Sort of to live into that unknown. That's what the silence.
But a lot of stuff's coming out of that silence. That's what I'm finding.
Let us communicate.
No, in the silence. Both from the patient and from self.
And I think I'm having some, I don't know, I don't think it's guilt really, because I think about our patients, and nobody wants anybody to die or to experience trauma, nobody wants that. But you guys have had a lot, and I haven't had any of that. You know, and so, it's just my feeling, I don't expect you to share that with me, it's just that, it's just my feeling that I'm feeling, there's, surprise is not a good thing for me, because everything that's happened bad in my life has been very abrupt and very sudden. You know, all three of my family members passed away just out of the blue, miscarriage out of the blue, you know, my losses, just things surprising that have bad happened have just come out of the blue. So this is what this environment is out of the blue. I mean, you're laying there up in the sleep room or, you know, watching TV or something, and it's just that buzzer goes off, or the beeper goes off, and that's a signal that there's something. You know, so anyway, I'm just feeling, I don't know what the feeling
What are you
is.
feeling?
I'm feeling, where is okay. I'm feeling
You started with, was it guilty?
guilty.
Which is under sad.
Yeah, so sad. Your story just made me sad. I don't even know the patient, but it made me sad for you. So, you know, I don't identify with those other things. Maybe isolated, you know, because I haven't shared in this death experience that you guys have, you know. And there's a light shining on it.
Yeah.
So a little scared too, because I hear your stories and
Breathe.
yeah, and the only thing that it's shown me is that I've faced a lot in the last 5 weeks that nothing's prepared me to do what I'm doing now, and I've survived it. So I will survive, you know, but I guess that's what I'm feeling is that I can't really relate, but I'm very sad for you guys to have to deal with that. That would be a really hard thing to see. Doesn't that sound awful to be a patient that's alive and you know that, or that if they were aware that that was going to happen?
Yeah,
I mean, it just reminded me of the death penalty, but go ahead.
yeah, I mean, I've had some similar feelings. I haven't had any deaths as well, but you know, a lot of heavy stuff, and I guess there's some fear on my part that, you know, one, that I may say something that I'm gonna regret, one of those pious platitudes, or that there's just something that, you know, they need to hear that I won't be able to provide, because it's just, I feel like there's something, the heaviness of the situation, there's nothing that can be said. So I think there's just a lot of different, you know, almost, you know, we're there to support them but also helping them to just work through those emotions. Is, you know, the best I can do. And, you know, I guess they just, you know, have to come to that trust that we're doing the best that we can with what we've got.
I'm wondering if we do it alone. Do we do this work alone? What does your theology say about this work that you are doing?
I know my Sunday school answer.
I love that.
Your Sunday school answer.
Jesus is
Jesus.
with me. No, but I mean, I really do believe that, but I forget that I act as if I don't believe that.
That it's all on you?
Yeah.
Well, because, I mean, for me, it's, yes, you know, God's with us, but we're also the face. And so if we do it wrong, people are gonna remember us. They're not gonna be like, well, God had, you know? Like, so there's that.
Send somebody
That'd be
else.
But if we do it right,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's true, because you hear that, right? We hear people
we heard
say,
it today, did
the
we
hands
not,
and the
this
feet.
morning?
Mhm.
I love you. Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, wow.
Yeah. But I think there is that fear of us, like you said, not wanting to say the wrong thing. It's so, like, any other time, if it's just a sickness thing, it's one thing, but to be at such a pivotal moment. Because I can remember a pastor, when my uncle died, and the pastor that made me watch my uncle get buried, and his theology of choices are made, and I was in 5th grade, but I remember that like it was yesterday. And I still don't like that pastor to this day, you know? So those things stick with us. And I think, and that's probably why it bothers me even more, because I remember what it was like to have that like stuck as a child. Because it is scary. Like I mean, I think they did a good job selecting us, hopefully, that we won't have that. But you could screw it up really fast if you wanted
Yeah,
to.
it can set a
You really
trajectory.
could.
A
We had our own
trajectory.
agenda, and we had our own, like, well, I'll show that, you know, well, they may tell me this, but I'm just gonna be this person anyway. We could totally screw it up for someone.
And I think a lot of times, they think, families think we have all the answers because we're the spiritual authority, we're the only chaplain in the hospital.
Yeah. Pick someone else.
It's
you.
So I am alone.
And where was I going with that? Well, so there's that, fear of saying the wrong thing, and they have their expectations of us.
Yeah.
So, thinking we have to have the right answers, or, and I think, but also at the same time, if we get teared up, I think it also kind of gives them permission to show that emotion as well, and just have to be there.
Mhm. That's what I've noticed. Like this week, I've just been focusing on, sounds so weird. Like just noticing their face and like, just, feeling what they're feeling. Like yesterday is hard. I had a hard time keeping it together. I was able to swallow it, but watching, that's a good example for the whole week of just processing from, I'm here with stomach pain. I had a minor heart attack last week, which I was like, minor? And then I realized, but then to be here because you have minor upset stomach, whatever, and then to find out you have cancer and it's stage 4 pancreatic. And I got to, that doesn't sound right, but I saw that whole process. I saw I'm gonna go home soon, let me get out of here, to you have cancer and you're 81 years old and we're not going to do anything about it because you're 81. And even witnessing him say it out loud, like he said, I don't even know if I can say it. I'm dying of cancer. But he didn't say it right away. He just like started crying. And so this week with the deaths and with the suicide, where I couldn't talk to the guy because he had the tube down his mouth in the beginning, and just like eyes, like reading people's faces. And I think I've just been focused on why this week I'm big on being really authentic and real, because our patients are vulnerable, authentic, and real. And I find comfort in knowing that it's okay to go in and be authentic and real, but it's also challenging. So. And the other thought is, it's like, what week? And we went from laughing to like, we're still able to laugh. We're at least, it's getting interjected into my little dark circle, but it's a little bit more heavy. Which is probably part of the plan.
It's all part of the master plan.
Yeah, it is. Just interesting. What about you, Denise? You haven't said a lot.
I'm listening. I agree that we're being heard. Kind of like not knowing what to say and screwing things up. At North, there was this guy, and he was really young. He was like 30-something. I'm just forgetful sometimes. We have a 1 o'clock meeting, which is actually a very helpful meeting. So all the doctors, like the representative from each floor, whatever section is there, and the chaplain's there, and the social worker's there, and the drug lady is there. Call her the drug lady. Pharmacy, whatever, drug lady. And then they have like 15-minute slots, and the doctor pops in, goes through his or her patients, and tells us what's going on with each one of them. And then there's another 15-minute slot, and the next doctor comes in, goes through each one. So that we're all very aware of what's going on with all the different patients, which is really helpful. And they had mentioned this one guy who, just a young, robust guy, married, and they just found out he has some pretty bad cancer. And so they mentioned it, and then I think I came back a couple of days later, and I was just doing rounds, and I ended up, and it didn't say that on his print, on the printout. You need print out each day, right? You throw the old one away that you've written on. I didn't remember that was him. And I went in and sat, and I mean, he was just sitting up, he was happy. His mom was happy, his wife was, I mean, they were all just sitting around and started asking me questions. Really? So how'd you do this? How'd you become? And so they're like, so I'm not being very focused and kind of drawn away, talking about my time in Dubai and the Navy, and I'm just thinking, crap, I'm not even doing what I'm supposed to be doing in here. And then I'm like, you know, they said, well, we'd like to pray. I'm like, oh, I'd love to pray. So, and I made the cardinal mistake. So tell me what, you're going home? He's like, yeah, I'm going home. So they fixed whatever. And he's like, no, I have cancer. It's like the cardinal, don't do that. I did that. So, but anyway, we prayed, and I was just feeling really, really bad. Like, wow. And I went somewhere, did something, and came back, and his mother had come out of the room, and she was like, you know, and I said to her first, I said, oh, I'm so sorry. I should have known. I should have looked more deeply at his chart. I don't know where I would have found it because it wasn't. And she said, oh, no, that prayer. I just wanted to come out and tell you, thank you for praying with us. That meant so much to us. And I was like, well, thank you for letting me know I didn't screw this guy's life up even worse than it's already screwed up. But anyway, so that's where I was sitting here thinking about how I just kind of jack that one up.
But she took the time to come out and tell you.
She did, and
So
I,
there's
you know,
something to be said about that.
there's
We're
a
going
lot
to
be
screw
said
up.
about that. Yeah.
We're going to screw up.
And I have to believe that there's something sovereign involved in that, because I mean, I was beating myself up pretty badly. You know, so just to know that they got something of use, because I was just like, dude, see, this is not for you. See, look how you screwed this up.
Oh.
You know what I mean? So it's just kind of, it was helpful to know that there was at least some ministry that took place.
So maybe another way to look at it too is, like, my person had a really hard time saying it out loud, like that he was dying of cancer. And I mean, you gave him a safe place to practice and say, you know what I mean? Like when he leaves that place. And you know how people call, and I mean, that happened with some patients this last week, that they would call, how are you? But I mean, you gave him a chance to, and you treated him at the beginning of that like there was nothing, like cancer didn't define who he was with that conversation.
Yeah,
So
and that
that
was
is
another
a
thing I
different-
thought of, is maybe they were just happy to talk about something besides the fact that
Mm-hmm.
this guy sitting here has cancer. You know, they were really gracious people.
It seemed like you're trying to fix her, Stephanie.
Am I?
I don't know, Denise, what is your experience?
Yes, I am.
I'm just gonna fail that part of this.
My experience is I got my fix.
Did she fix you?
Oh, it's so automatic. Like I can't even shut it off.
No, I don't.
Because I thought were there tears coming for you in this? I feel like you're close, maybe. Again,
Yeah.
it's we're
You
I
don't
don't
want me
know.
to be
I'm not
close all
trying to make you cry. I'm just
All
like,
along you've been wanting
I'm
to be
feeling
It's just like
something
heavy
over
this
here.
week. It is feeling heavy this week.
It is.
I don't know.
God.
For
We just need to
everybody.
go blow up some stuff tomorrow. What do you need, Denise?
Sleep.
Sleep.
I need to sleep. I didn't sleep very well last night. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I need. I don't know. You feel a little fixed, though. Thank you.
Okay,
Sorry.
so there is a
No,
there's
it's
a fine
helpful.
line between saying helpful things that validate somebody's feelings and just trying to fix it. So I think you're really good at that. You told me some things that have really been helpful to me. And because we're in this group and we know what we're doing, it's almost like sitting in a room of psychiatrists or therapists, you know, it's like, I know what you're doing here. I wasn't trying to. But I've been helped by the things, and you're really good at that. So as long as your intent is not to try to, you know, I don't think it is, but.
But what happens dynamically when she starts to fix?
What happens to Denise's story?
I don't know. What did y'all notice? What did you notice over here, this side of the room?
I did notice that.
Okay.
I
Did you?
noticed.
What changed dynamically?
Find words.
It seems like, your demeanor changed, to have more, seem, a bit more upbeat than when you were sharing the story. So definitely I noticed a, tone of voice and that sort of thing.
So there was a shift emotionally for Denise. Maybe.
Did you shut down?
Yeah,
A bit.
that's the words that I was gonna use.
No, I felt like I didn't have to feel like a pile of crap
Hmm.
so much.
Okay.
That's kind of.
Were you, I was gonna ask a question and make it come out wrong. In
okay.
sharing the story, were you hoping for affirmation?
No, that wasn't.
Okay.
That wasn't the goal.
Okay.
I don't really expect that. I was just confessing that I think I really screwed up. And I wasn't really expecting anything beyond that. But just identifying with you, and you were saying, I hope I'm not making this worse. Or I don't know, I'm trying to think of what you said that triggered that for
Yeah.
me. But not knowing really what to say, or I think even just you being with that person that found out he had cancer. And it just kind of sprung in my mind, oh yeah, you kind of tracked that one up, didn't you? And I thought, so maybe I could tell him. Because that's what happened.
What was happening to you, Stephanie, when Denise was telling her story? Jacking it up royally.
Yeah, I guess I have a tendency to try to, and I always say it, but I have a tendency to like try to look at it through a different angle. Like just remembering what's like when I'm in the midst of something and that's what I even put you guys in my reflection this week. Like that's what I like about this is when we share what's happened with our groups and I sit there and think how I would have reacted to it. And then I sit there and think, oh, well, I would have never even thought to look at it that way. So I guess, it was trying to fix, but not realizing I was trying to fix. But I think it was just,
So what did you want to fix?
I don't really think I meant to, like, I don't think I was like, oh, I have to fix it. I think I was just thinking of a different perspective to look at it. But not to say what I did not intend, which I have to realize may come across sometimes, is I didn't intend to not validate your feeling or to make your feeling less than.
Got it.
So that's my growing edge, I think, is because that's not my intention at all. So like, well, Denise, you shouldn't feel that way.
Yeah. No,
But I can
But
see
that
where
was that how you
that
felt?
where it can be.
No, I didn't
perceived.
feel like that at all. I honestly felt very similar to what you said, that, oh, there actually is another way you could look at it. And I'm like, oh, yeah. I guess that's really true. There is another way to look at it that's not so.
Yeah, but I can
Much
see
weakness.
where that could go the wrong way. Like I can definitely see where that not intended at all, like not even in my brain. So. Yeah. But again, it's these things that are just so like,
I know.
you know, like when I was deciding whether I wanted to be a chaplain or not, it was chaplain, social worker. And then like Isla had where you could do both. And I thought about doing both. But then I had a friend who's just graduated who reminded me, now remember, chaplains aren't there to fix it. And so they fix it, it's all coming back to me.
Coming back to.
Yeah, but in my world, it made sense. Like, yes, I can do both. Like, I can find Jesus and I can help fix it.
And I give them resources.
Right. But, I mean, it makes sense now that I'm here. Totally.
I guess what I was curious about was, I was aware of kind of the dark emotion that Denise was expressing. She was beating up on herself pretty bad. She had some pretty strong language about herself. And I wondered if that was a trigger for you to,
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm just trying to think
Maybe,
of what
kind of
was-
like my little dark spot that has the light flowing through
Oh.
it. Same thing.
Like,
Um,
talk more about that.
Well, it's just been a hellacious week. Like I'm mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually exhausted. And I got irritated yesterday at work and I had a good processing for my session, so I feel better about that. But again, for me, it goes back to that whole being like I'm stuck on it for some reason. Like the power we have. Okay, we don't have power.
Oh,
That
yes, we do.
sounds, but I mean the power, like we should never take for granted what we, like I'm just really struggling with that whole being authentic and true and like, and just being there for our patients, which is probably where I'm getting stuck on the fixing part because it is, like I'm a feeling person. Like I sat in that room yesterday and was trying so hard not to cry. And some of it was I was identifying with my dad because when the guy finally let loose, my dad, who has Parkinson's, is struggling with that too. And so I'm dealing with that in the midst of my crazy summer. And, but it's just that whole thing, like our patients don't really have a choice. You know, like they have some pretty sucky, I would never say that to them. Some have some really sucky things happen. And they are bearing their soul to us and they are being so real. And just like, I feel like a protective thing of like, it's not okay for us just to be like this. And well, here, let me diagnose, which is why when I say fix it, I want to be really careful of that. Like I'm really, like I don't want to be perceived as that because it's not my intention of like, oh, Chaplain Stephanie is also master of doctor of whatever and thinks she can fix it.
You know, be not concerned.
Yeah, but it's also, I think I'm stuck in this little thing of like, authenticity is really important to me. And I'm feeling really crappy about people that don't feel authentic and the power that they have. And I feel sorry for our patients. I don't know why. That's honestly what it is today. I feel sorry for our patients.
Yeah.
That have to deal with that and it just hurts.
And have to deal with it.
Today it hurts.
Authenticity.
Yeah, like to deal
Or
with
sucky
people.
chaplains.
Yeah, sucky chaplains that don't really give a shit about them.
Right.
Like, I'm gonna be raw, like, I'm gonna be honest.
Well, I gave
Like-
a crap about him, but I would just suck him.
Yeah, you know, like,
Were you?
no, I don't think
I
you
think that
were.
could have been.
I just
No,
said
we're
yeah,
talking
but I
about-
wasn't saying
No,
yeah.
I know, so I realize there's a whole other situation you're probably talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean.
You were a sucky chaplain who said the most beautiful prayer, and this woman came out and wanted to tell you that. I'm seeing a lot of polarities here in your story. It's either all good or it's all bad.
Yeah, it's
And
like
I'm
life or
wondering-
death, it's my black and white
Is
life.
yeah. It's either I do it perfectly or I shouldn't even be here.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's that.
Well, even today with the sermon thing, like,
Is
it's
that-
all paralleled. It feels.
Yeah,
I would have to say that was some of my hardest time today was critiquing your thing. I don't know why.
Because I personally could feel your face fall. And,
Right.
Like,
And-
I could feel your, I don't want to put
Spirit.
extra misery into it, but I could just feel you.
Yeah.
Like, I just felt heavy.
yeah, and I don't know if it's that I don't take criticism well or what it is. I mean, but I really do appreciate that you told me because I need to hear that.
And I just can't wait till next week when we have to tell each other our weaknesses.
That's maybe one.
Linda, you have no
Linda's gonna
filter.
go.
It's gonna be good. I know. I know.
I know.
I'm
So everybody
Right.
think of the white
There you
SpongeBob. You white
Dirty dancing.
I had a really hard time with that because I think that I've always had a hard time with criticism. And I don't know why. I mean, does anybody not have problems with criticism? A little?
I do.
I mean, just a little?
I think it's the fear of being
Exposed?
exposed, but also misunderstood
It's possible.
Mhm.
and not being defensive.
Or where do you go when you hear criticism? Some people go to shame.
Shame.
It's not everybody goes to shame under criticism, but being aware of where you.
I think it's just a at least I have that feeling of feeling judged when I'm getting, receiving critique and criticism, and then for me that judgment leads to what did I do wrong, and then kind of leads to shame.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't feel judged. I feel like I aimed and I hit over there and the target was over there. It's like, dang, it just went right by me. Like I feel like, wow, I just missed the target altogether.
Kind of like that patient visit you're just telling us about, pretty much. You didn't read the chart well enough.
I didn't.
You didn't poll the
It's like
audience
he's
well
like
enough.
30-year-old on a whole floor who has cancer that they talked for 5 minutes about the previous day, and it's like, how come I can't remember stuff? But we had a great visit. I talked wonderfully about Dubai. It's like I screwed that up too. I'm not talking to him about how he's feeling. Not
Maybe he didn't want to talk about that
maybe
feeling.
not.
Maybe they asked you questions because they didn't want to talk about his cancer.
Could be.
And maybe all they really wanted was for you to pray with them. And maybe you did
Could be.
that. Maybe you gave them exactly what they wanted and needed.
Well, honestly, those are her words.
So
I mean, yeah. It turned out fine.
I think to me the telling thing, not telling, I don't know. You said I was aiming there and I shot here instead. That you were way off. And I think that that's what I've always tended to do is that if I didn't get a glowing report, then I'm all of a sudden way off, that I didn't get anything right. And I feel that black and white sometimes that I just, and mine usually goes to shame, but it's just that you weren't way off on anything, in this particular thing, and in your ministry to that. Now I'm sitting here trying to fix her. Well, I am too. I get hooked as well, but
I'm good. I get that.
but
I get that there's a mix. I'm sorry.
no.
That there's a
I'm
both and, that it's
Yeah,
not always
It's
either
mix,
or.
right.
And it actually just worked. It
That-
worked out, and I'm thankful for that. Is that what you're?
Yeah.
Yeah. That it's not just either I screwed up royally or it
Right.
turned out perfectly. I realize there's a mix. It's very much a salt and pepper thing, and I'm grateful that I got that little bit of that was okay
Yeah.
from her. Had I not gotten that, I'd probably still be going around it in my head.
Are you going around and around in your head? Do you think?
Not as much. I forgot about the anchor on the other side, which was her telling me that, which was helpful. And and the nice thing was it was her initiation. It's not like I don't elicited anything. I had just gone back on that floor for a minute, and she was walking down the P-way, the hallway, sorry, the military, their P-way, the passage was P-way, and saw me and said that. So, yeah. My worst feeling was for him. It's like, my hope is that there was some comfort that he took from the visit. That's my hope. And to think I went in there and just yabbered about myself and he got nothing out of it, that would be the worst. Which is not really about me, it's about him being blabbed at and feeling untouched, in a sense. It's kind of like, dude, life sucks bad enough. You got cancer, you're young, you're probably gonna die. And here this person comes in and just yaps about herself and leaves like the world is a happy place and yours sucks right now. You know what I mean? So that's kind of that would be the sad part for me. Is that literally nothing of value for the person took place. His spirits were so good. That's why I just assumed, he was going home, he seemed so happy, and it just never occurred to me that this is the guy they were talking about that has the cancer. And the nurse was like, it just not look good. And they all just kind of sat there in silence for a minute. And I don't even know what type of cancer it is. I wouldn't be surprised if it is pancreatic because they seem pretty down about it. Like, dude, this is going to take him quickly. But he didn't seem like he was in any pain. He was just sitting up in his bed. Hey, how are you? Oh, yeah, have a seat. This is my mom. This is my wife. Hi, nice to meet you. Oh, so where are you from? What do you do? Oh. And then blah, blah, blah. I started thinking. So anyway, blah, blah, blah. So maybe they did not want to talk about what was going on with him. I don't know. We can talk about someone else.
I was feeling that. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
no, hope you don't beat up on.
No, I don't feel beat up on it at all. I don't.
So Ken, talking
bud.
turns to quiet.
Hello.
Yeah.
Here.
How's your week going, Ken?
Konnichiwa.
What are you feeling as you're sitting here?
Hola.
Now I'm being Joanna.
Yes, you are. You're trying to kill off.
No.
What?
Change the subject.
over the group.
I'm fixing it. I'm getting it off of Denise. No. No.
Why are you talking to him?
No, I'm talking because
Why are you talking?
why? I'll be
I'm
honest,
scared.
because I feel like I talk a lot. Like I overtalk. Don't laugh, Jake.
Is that, do you want feedback about that? Or
No, I'm getting
are you
it.
I know,
just making a
you want me to say, yes, Stephanie, that is true. You're talking an awful lot.
You were like holding in a laugh, so
Yeah,
I just can't help
I
it. It's
know,
automatic. It
I
doesn't even
know.
have to mean anything.
I
But
know.
you're sometimes quiet.
Yeah.
The last time you weren't quiet.
No.
So I'm just curious. I pointed you out because sometimes I feel like, not that you're overlooked, but I noticed a week or two ago that, okay, I processed it like 5 days later, so it wasn't right away. But I was thinking about a conversation that took place, and sometimes I feel like the women, stereotypically for sure, but we kind of overpower conversations.
Well, it's a little,
And it literally, like right
look
now.
at how we're
it's you.
organized today. There's a
Yeah.
division.
And all the blues.
Yeah. And
Right around.
Jake sometimes has a face of please don't pick me. But Ken has like the
Processing base.
Oh, is that what that is?
And
you
I
have
guess-
the one that's harder to read.
Yeah, I guess I was kind of taking in, as you were sharing and, the comments about, the polarities, I definitely kind of pick up on that. And I guess I was also kind of reflecting for myself. I think I'm one that kind of tends to beat up on myself more than I should. But, I've also learned to try to take, bad with the good, as it were. And, recognize, when I have messed up, but also try to find some good points in there. I mean, off the top of my head, I can't think of concrete examples, but as you were sharing, obviously, it was a great prayer that you offered, and, it's a little, was, a bit of a goof up with the chart, diagnosis, but I think overall, recognizing, even though there was a slip up, I always try to, walk away thinking, I hope, I pray that I help this person in some way, even if may never see this person again.
Yeah.
After your visit, you have
Yeah,
that prayer, or
yeah.
before your visit?
No, after the visit, I just, pray that, I may never see this person again. I hope this, time spent was productive for them. And I guess in my mind, it kind of helps me, get motivated when I go on to the next one.
So you do some closure.
Yeah. And so, I think that's for me, it kind of helps myself to, to learn as I, make my rounds and continue on with other visits.
Yeah. That's helpful. Just kind of an idea about how to let it go. Let it go.
So, the biggest thing for me is try to take, the good with the bad.
That is such a healthy way, because, I that resonates with me, the black and white. But let me just share that a couple weeks ago in this circle, Denise shared a story, and it came out in my IS. It wasn't like named, it was just sort of drawn out in me that, because I had responded with a story of my own that I cried, about my dad. And so what I felt that I didn't recognize your grief about hitting the bird. I said there's people that wouldn't care about that, but then I went right on and talked about my dad, my Birdman dad. And it was just came out in my IS that I had inserted something that had nothing really to do, that I wasn't acknowledging your pain. For a week, I felt horrible shame. It was like really bad shame. Nobody said anything to me, but it was a realization that I sometimes, and I think that I know people that are really bad at it, but then I started really paying attention, and I still not going to stop doing it, and I probably will, but I'm just be aware that I need to really settle in and listen to somebody's story. And the message for me is, after that, we need to forgive ourselves. We need to forgive ourselves for not, for putting ourselves in the middle of a story that with the kid with the cancer. We need to forgive ourselves for trying to not knowing to do. It was just a big lesson for me, because I thought, how am I going to get over this shame? Because I am that black and white person that goes, I just totally screwed everything up, and I guess I'm a quick learner about certain things like that. And so it just helped me realize that I can't sit in the shame forever. I've got to forgive myself. And so that was that. So
Well, number one, good word. It's good to review again. Yeah, I need to forgive myself. for not being perfect. Ha,
Hmm.
that's kind of weird.
What did you hear Linda saying about the interaction
That we had that day.
what did you hear her saying?
I hear her saying that she feels like she kind of shut me down, which I don't feel like that at all. And I'm not trying to fix it, but I want to educate you.
I wanna-
Not educate
So
you.
what was your experience? Yeah.
Yeah, I want to inform you just of what my experience was.
Uh-huh.
So that was, if we look at this Death Valley I've been through, it was kind of like that. And I was sort of on the way down with the bird.
Uh-huh.
Maybe count the numbers, but I was really struggling to find some sort of meaning. Like, what the heck, God? Why a bird who didn't do anything to anybody? Maybe steal somebody's worm or something. I don't know, but
You didn't deserve it. Yeah.
yeah, like what was that? And so it was really helpful to me to see that it helped you process through some of your stuff with your dad, because it gave meaning to why in the world this would happen in my life on that day. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, that's.
So it gave meaning and purpose to it, even though it was an ugly thing that I didn't like. Do you know what I mean? But if it helped you move forward, then that gave it some meaning for me.
I'm not sure that my entering into your pain that way helped me with my dad or process that. I don't think so.
Well, you
What in the
some.
end, what it grew some, but what the end result was is that I recognized what I had done. I'm a perfectionist. I don't want to do anything wrong. I'm shamed, because that to me is worse than anger and is worse than sadness is shame. And I just would cringe. It was like everything was cringing. That whole week was just, every time I thought about it, thinking that I was that person. And so I finally had to forgive myself and say, you know what, you're so not perfect. But man, I hope that I can just I've taken a couple steps forward and don't go 3 steps back, I want to learn from that. And so that's the end result of that for me. And I guess I'm sorry that I didn't acknowledge your pain, even though you're telling me that it was okay. I got it. I learned something different from it. So my dad, my whole thing with my dad, I just wanted to tell that story maybe. I don't know what made me think of it.
I do want to raise the dynamic that Stephanie raised about the women and the men. I just thought that was an interesting thing that she named.
I notice it.
Did you finish your thought? I don't know.
I
Remember.
think so. I notice it. Because I process these things at random weird times on my hour and 15 minutes home. But yeah, I know that I can overpower a room. It sounds so bad, but it's true. And you all know I use humor I use humor when I think it's funny, but I also use humor to cover. And sometimes I'm noticing that the louder I am, the more I'm trying to cover. But there's just been a few times that later I'll think about our dynamic and realize that you guys have said something and we didn't even we're like, and then it's just so stereotypical women thing. I don't mean to be sexist, but it really is a stereotypical thing. And then you guys stereotypically just kind of go with it or just be quiet and laugh or maybe.
So what do you guys
I think
about
it was
this?
Ken, and it's happened to you. I can think of twice where it's happened.
Yeah.
And even outside of our little circle, upstairs, lunchtime.
Have you noticed this?
No.
Do you know that you're sitting next to Ken?
That is so stereotypical. So stereotypical.
You know where you
It's stereotypical too, because on to not knowing.
That's not my
I don't
lead.
know where that came from.
You've never like sat there and been like, these
Okay.
women don't.
You said you remember.
How about we stop and let him talk?
Good. See, there you go. There it is.
There it is. There it is. I'll ask you a question. Give me one of the examples. If you
I
can
just
remember.
did. I don't know, like
Oh, you just did? There was so much talking going on. I didn't pick it up.
just that we'll have a conversation and there was one day you and I were having a conversation and I was probably trying to fix something and then you said something it was worship planning. It was worship planning.
Oh,
I felt
okay.
tension in our worship planning, which we only have 5 minutes. We can't go there. But I felt tension in our worship planning for some reason. I think the dynamics of our differences came out that day. And so I think there was some fix-it stuff going. And then maybe someone said something about we could change it or what. But we were so in our zone that it wasn't until later. That was one example. And
You
that's
said
what
we
happened
could
at
not do
lunchtime.
the song. I think that's what you
Yeah.
said. Is that what you?
Was that the?
Yes.
Okay.
I
It's a
remember
song.
thinking-
I may have said something about being flexible because
Yeah.
it's kind of like
Yeah.
my thing is just kind of go with it.
Right.
Oh,
Or maybe
we're
you
wondering if the
felt-
song was gonna fit.
Yeah,
And then-
like I felt tension
Oh.
in that for some reason, whether it was there or not. And then,
I vaguely remember.
There was
that.
some talk about the song "Blessings" and if it would be appropriate considering
Yeah.
the circumstance, of the theme of the reflection.
Oh, right. I don't know.
and then at lunch one time too, there's something happened at lunch. Something was said at lunch, but it does turn into a lunchtime. We're all together and then,
Do you notice anything like that, Ken?
I mean, I feel like I may throw in comments and I think they get acknowledged, but it's just not something that's doesn't lead to like further conversation. It's just an insertion into the overall conversation. I don't think I've never picked it up as being me being dismissed. It's just kind of as the conversation kind of flows, it just continues on. So I've never taken offense at what could be perceived as being overlooked. It's just kind of making my contributions.
Yeah, stereotypically speaking, guys don't usually take things that personally, typically. I'm assuming, I could be wrong. I mean, as evidenced by what you said.
I have a
seems like-
word quota in a day.
Today.
So really, you're just kind of
Yeah, I do.
compartmentalizing
Or an
it
emotional
out.
quota.
I have an
for the day.
emotional and a word quota.
And so when it reaches, then you're just kind of,
Yeah.
whatever.
I'm just done.
So I hear the question of, do you feel left out?
I don't.
Is that what the question
I
is?
don't
Kind of,
feel
left
out.
Are you feeling left
I
out?
feel good enough that if I think what I have to say is worthwhile and contribute, I will assert myself enough. But if I don't, if I assess that, yeah, there's a lot of chatting going on, and this is just really, I'll just lay this to the side. I do that a lot.
Just them talking.
I'm gonna let him circle around, and then when we finally get back to the topic, if I feel like I need to say something else.
And I feel like to jump into the conversation and make a contribution.
Yeah. So, yes, there have been a few times that I've done that. Brevity of words is.
Is that your gift?
Yeah, I mean, it's my preferred style of communication.
Okay.
So, yeah. So, anyway. But I enjoy that. I like being in an environment where the pressure's not on me to talk. I've been in a lot of those, leading studies with groups who won't talk at all, and so, it's a breath of fresh air. So I don't feel overlooked, left out, not affirmed or appreciated or anything like that. bringing that up.
Good.
Yes,
Good thing it's 3:00.
it's 3:00.
Good work today.
And I do know that I'm sitting next to Kim. So funny.
I like to tease you.
I can take it.
I know you
The blue team today.
The blue team.
Blue team, yeah.
So what's the color next Tuesday?
White,
Yeah.
it was red, white.
Oh.
Now they're gonna mix it up.
Sorry.
That'll be the last day.
Or SpongeBob.
SpongeBob.
I brought this